Hi, my name is Ulrich Teuffel from Teuffel Guitars in Germany. I'm a guitar maker since about 35 years, and I'm a professional guitar maker since 1988. That means I have my 30th anniversary this year. When I started building guitars, I started with more conventional instruments, as I think everyone does, working on the Strat path and on the Les Paul path. And then I picked up a study of industrial design when I was 27. And after my design study, I came out with a guitar model that was quite conceptual. You can regard it as a kind of deconstruction of a solid body bolt-on guitar and a reassembling of this deconstruction. It's called the Birdfish. And I have here a Birdfish model, which is one of the contemporary executions of my Birdfish. It's got slidable pickups and interchangeable pickups, as all of my Birdfish models. It has got interchangeable tone bars. They are both on the body frame of the aluminum parts, together with 4 bolts, so you can interchange them and put on different timbers on the guitar, so you can, so to say, emulate the tone of a guitar with a mahogany body, or standard-wise with a red alder body or with a maple body, but you can also get different other sets of tone bars. And you have 5 different pickups that have different characters. Each pickup fits on every position. I can show you how to exchange the pickup here. It's just bolt on and plugged in. So this is the first model that I presented in 1995, the Birdfish, and I think it's a guitar that I'm most known for. After that, I had some other guitar models that are following the footprints of the Birdfish. One was the Coco, a guitar made from a composite body with a wooden core. Another one was the Tesla in '99. And then in 2007, a follower of the Coco, which is called the Niwa, and in 2012, the Antonio. So while the standard Birdfish, called the Birdfish Classic, has always a bird's eye maple one-piece neck and matte painted tone bars from Alder and matte painted pickups, I have here the nickel Birdfish, which has nickel plated and nickel polished metal parts that are all manufactured in my workshop. And this guitar has also a neck from bird's eye maple, but it's stained with a glossy finish, and the fingerboard as well as the pickups are made from Palfero, and so they are made from solid timber. Inside the pickups there can be a single coil or a humbucker, so the pickup shape, the outline shape, the outer surface is the same shape, nevertheless what is inside of the pickups. And this is a model that I built since 2 years, since 2000 or 3 years, 2015. This is my most recent guitar model. It's called Antonio, and it quotes a classical guitar, but it is not an acoustic guitar. So when I started to work on this model, I had the idea to do my reenactment of a vintage guitar. And starting to think on that, I realized that I am too much constrained to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that at the end some kind of surf guitar or such will come out. So I had the idea to step back 1 century even earlier to do my kind of reenactment guitar or vintage guitar, however you call that. And I ended by the acoustic guitar, by the archetype of the acoustic guitar made by Antonio de Torres. So the concept, the project name of this guitar immediately became Antonio. And what I did is then I took the shape of the Antonio Torres guitar and tried to find out where I can place the quotes of this guitar. So I have, for instance, a sound chamber here under the guitar, in the lower bout of the body, but I have also a sound chamber quoting the 5 braces of the Antonio de Torres top. So these are, so to say, the twang chambers in order to make the bridge, the top behind the bridge, vibrating more intensely to get more attack in the tone when you pluck the guitar, when you string the guitar. And the guitar has quotes also the classical bridge of a classical instrument, but it's a wraparound bridge actually. You start with the strings from here and they go over these saddles. You can adjust the intonation, but it looks like a classical guitar bridge. And this is the pickup of the guitar. It quotes a sound hole, but there is no sound hole. It's just the neck pickup, which defines the shape of the sound hole. Then you have a slotted peg head, which is the first symmetrical peg head that I did on my guitars. And it has very nicely working goto tuners, the stealth tuners, which are very, very light. The guitar is made from mahogany, Sweetenia mahogany, and it has only 2 sorts of timbers. One is the Siricote, which is the fingerboard, the pickup, the bridge, and the cover plate for the jack. By the way, there's an solid aluminum block beneath the wood, so you really can stumble across your cable. And the other part of the Siricote is the back side of the headstock and the top side of the headstock. So this is a guitar that has a Gibson scale. It's the first model that I do with a short scale. It's the typical scale of the jazz instruments. So this guitar can lead you on a course of playing. I would say it's a guitar that you take when you sit down and play on your sofa, and you start to find out where it leads you to, because when you see the guitar at the first moment, you don't know what it is meant to be. And actually it's not meant to be anything than to be found out by you what it can be for you. So this is the idea of that instrument. Building was sparked by playing guitar when I was young, and I think it's a typical biography of any luthier, not to be able to afford the guitars that you were dreaming of. So parallel to that happened that my grandfather was a woodworker, so I was quite familiar with working with wood, and building a guitar has been a very high challenge for me when I was 13 and 14. So I stumbled across a book, How to Build Guitars, and that was the first spark to do it by myself. But I started to build acoustic guitars, flat tops that time, because I was a flat top player, so I played with finger rings and open tunings and all that. That was my period when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. So I've built a handful or 2 handful of acoustic guitars in the late 80s. I still have 2 of them, but later I switched over to electric guitars because the folk boom was over, and culturally the iconology of the electric guitar catched much more of my attention than the acoustic guitar, because it was somehow fading out, the peak of the acoustic guitar. And I did electric guitars for 30 years now, but now I'm working on a guitar project or on a model. It's still working under the shower, just in my brain. And it will be an acoustic guitar, one of my next models. but I'm talking about a few years from now. Oh yes, every luthier finds time. I mean, you have a guitar on your workbench, you finished it, you have all the time of the world. I mean, the world has to give you all the time to play that guitar. I still do find time to play guitar. It depends on your attitude towards a guitar. So if a guitar is for you just a tool that you play and you want to invest as little money as possible, you will go fine with an industrial guitar. And honestly, the quality of industrial guitars, even the Chinese industrial guitars, the quality has become higher and higher and higher over the years. So this is not the spot what I think to talk about. So that if this is all about commodities or objects of our desire, then there were no Ferraris and no Lamborghinis and no handmade bikes. So I think it has to do with the attitude as a perceiver of a guitar. When a guitar can communicate that it was made and mentioned in a special way, and there is a biography behind that guitar, and there is a soul, a spirit living on that guitar and fighting with the idea of the guitar, and even with the daily work on that guitar, and if you feel that in an instrument, I think then this guitar starts when you're open for that, and when you have the financial abilities to be open for that, then it will start to talk to you, and you will once buy one of those instruments. So I think it's not about arguments for or against boutique guitar. It will happen anyways. But nevertheless, I have to point out that the industry guitars have achieved such a high level that the decision for a boutique guitar can never be just only the playability and all that, because you get that for 600-700 euros. You don't have to invest much money. But still, if you sit on a sofa and play a guitar that tells you I have a family history, that's a different experience than if you play just any of the industry guitars. That's a good question, because it changed during my life. When I was young, I was really on the hunt, and I wanted to get my guitars finished as fast as possible. On one hand side, probably because everyone did, because this is the way that craftsmen are thinking. So to be successful and to produce this or that amount of guitars per month or per year. And the older I got, the more I found kind of zen way in doing the really boring parts of guitar making that I never wanted to do when I was much younger. So one of my favorites now is, and it was always the most hated job for me, is sanding and polishing the aluminium of my Birdfish model, for instance, and all those hardware parts. So polishing aluminium means it's a hard work, it's hand-on, and it's dirty. So I have an exhaust which I use when I'm buffering the aluminium, but nevertheless you look dirty, and it's the same thing. It takes your force and your concentration, and the older I got, the more, and I was always thinking what my grandfather told me, because all grandfathers, they are doing the work that the young folks don't want to do. And I understood, the older I got, I understood what he mentioned with that. And what I started to do is to buy audiobooks, and I'm talking about like 40 hours of audiobooks, like War and Peace and all that from Tolstoy. And so for me, it's a ceremony to polish aluminium. I'm looking forward weeks ahead, because then I know I have Anna Karenina, or I have the Faust of Thomas Mann, Dr. Faustus, listening to the next 2 weeks, and this is so inspiring. And the hands do their job that they are supposed to do, because they are trained as hands, as feet of a football player. And this is something that is, I'm so surprised when I think about that. This was the most hated job. I always had pain in my back when I polished aluminium, and now this is the most refreshing job for me. But this does not mean that I don't like to do fast forward work like in a design process and in a construction process, but I love the simple work the older I got. Thank you for taking the time to listen to that video and to watch me explaining my instruments. And take the opportunity to come to the Holy Grail Guitar Show. If you missed it, you don't know what you missed yet.